I'm just gonna start streaming. Yeah, let's let's
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Good morning.
Okay.
here we are again for the show that never ends. That's an Emerson, Lake and Palmer reference there. Yesterday was a pretty crazy show, wasn't it? Pretty crazy show. Show that dealt with depressing things in one way, but then kind of brought us around into a different, different way of viewing things. I had a few too many beers yesterday afternoon, so I guess I'm slightly hungover. And we, excuse me, we talked about some of the things that were weighing heavy on my mind, and so I ended up getting one of these weatherproof gate alarms and another double pack of, see if I can open these up. me. Solar lights. These are pretty bright. Supposedly motion detector, So I don't know if I put that on this thing and then, I don't know. I've got to read the instructions on how to use those exactly. But I'm going to add a few more motion detectors and an alarm, enhanced alarm system on my gate. I'm still getting this ridiculous airplane yeah, that's weird. I've tried 1,000 different ways to fix this microphone and it just doesn't want to do it for me. I don't know why. It's 6:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in La La Land. And I've been messing around for like almost an hour or so, just trying to get this just trying to get this sound better, and it's been a complete and utter failure. It's one of those things you hate when you do that, right? So the microphone's not exactly in much better shape. I still have like pain in my back and I just don't feel right. Famous last words before the man drops. Try to keep it a little more upbeat today. And let's get into the show. Same old set, same old guy. I'm not wearing a beret today, just wearing the old hat. And the reading glasses, which I did do this thing before. I was going to do an image of me, I think it was minus the glasses, sans glasses. But decided against it. But anyway, let's take a look at the title card for the day. I was listening to music yesterday, and I ended up getting into listening to, in fact, I'll take this up. My CPU's going way up and my frame rate's going way down. But anyway, I had the air conditioner on before. So I don't know if it's because I brought up this card. Let's see if it goes down. No, I'm going to have to turn the air conditioner on. Do you believe this or not? Alright, I'll be right back. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. Alright, I'm back. We'll see if this air conditioner does it. My chair is very uncomfortable today for no known reason. Other than, I don't know, maybe it's permanently broken. Alright, I'm back. Like I said, I'm not feeling 100%. The cooling down seems to be sending the CPU up, or the CPU frames per second are going up. The CPU is slightly going down. Hello. It's the same old thing every day. Took a Tylenol, an aspirin, a ginseng. Had a breakfast with blueberries and oatmeal, honey, raw pure honey, cinnamon. I don't know. Guess I got a decent night of sleep. Things are back to normal now that the air conditioner's on. So, I don't know if I'm going to have to take apart my Mac Mini. I mean, the thing's only like so big. If somehow it's gotten filled with dust of some kind, I don't know. I'm going to have to check that out. And then later on today, if I survive, I guess I'll figure out a way to install this thing. Well, that should freak out the neighbor, I guess. I have to eliminate various layers of stress. You get good at giving people advice. But, one of the things, an advice that I've never really actually given out to anyone. I always talked about the list. Man, it sounds like there's a frickin' airplane in my head. I tried disconnecting everything and just going with pure. So it's this microphone. It's like I should try switching back to the other microphone. Is that still hooked up? I don't know if it is or not. I don't know if it is. What the fuck? Come on, man. Just work. Technology today. Technology today. No. technology today. No. It's not plugged in. Without true love, we just exist. I'll be. This has got to be it. Let's see if we get it in. No, it's away. Somebody had something with that. Come on. I don't know if I'm plugging in a microphone or a guitar. Set. Come on. What's the fucking problem? There's a slot, right? Something there. Whatever I did. Let's see, where's the hole? Alright. Let's see. Test. No. After all that nonsense, it didn't work. As I think this is the microphone here. Alright, how do I get through this show without going to the emergency room? Alright. So what I was trying to do before was bring up this title card. And I was listening to some music, and I guess it was, I made some, some Bacharach David songs. Hal David, Burt Bacharach. Now, they wrote a lot of songs, 60-ish, 70s, right? Dionne Warwick, I think, sang a lot of their songs, most of their songs. Had a lot of hits. What you would call pop radio hits in that era. And one of them was a theme from that movie, Alfie. And that's the title card today. Without true love, we just exist, is a line from Alfie. And I think, I don't know, like I say, my mind is jello, so did I say that they remade that with like Jude Law? But the original one, I think, had was in black and white and was, what's his name? Did a million movies. You could see his face. Can't think of the name. It's on the tip of my tongue. But why press it? It's not going to come to me. Yeah. I don't know if it was Dionne Warwick or not, but she also did What the World Needs Now is Love, Sweet Love. Was that her too? Well, anyway, I started off listening to these 1940s blues singers, right? And I realized that this is me yesterday afternoon, between the hours of like noon and 3. I had, I don't know how many beers, 6-pack or something like that. I don't know, something like that. And anyway, so as you listen to these blues singers, it just starts coming out. This was like I started with 1940s blues singers. And it starts coming out that all these songs are about love, you know? You know, not about, you know, BFF hooking up, not about I want to sex you, you know, I don't know, all this goofy stuff, you know, today is, you know, it's like, they're not really love songs per se. You know, love is, you know, in yesteryear, they would call it, you know, to people, love is corny. It's, you know, what was the word in the 90s they used to use? I forget what that is too. My brain's not functioning today at all. I don't think this caffeine's gonna help either. And this ridiculously loud sound in my ear between the air conditioner. See, like I said, I normally would just take these headphones off. And that probably sounded, well, so you go, that sounds the same to me. But what happens is I can't hear.
Really funny. Really funny.
I can't hear the sound. The sound effects come through here and through the mixer. So I have no idea beginnings, end, and you know, it just you know, you're out of kilter without it. But I disconnected everything and I tried to go pure microphone. So I'm convinced that this overpriced piece of shit that it comes with its own like preamp or something. I don't know. Something in that is just adding this like air noise beyond the air conditioning. It's like I say, the best description is, I mean, I put in 100-some thousand miles on airplanes, probably hundreds of thousands of miles on jets. And it just has that sound like I'm in a jet. You know, without headphones on. So it's crazy. Just for the sake of it, let's get our daily little. Oh man, I think that's what's missing in my life. I'm pretty sure. Whether it's without true love, we just exist, or just anything. Of course, last night, well, we were talking about this. This we no longer need to worry about. I think we're over that. So let's go to this. Browse. Desktop. And this was me. This was me this morning before the show. No glasses, no Hawaiian shirt, eating my oatmeal and blueberries, whatever. So if you're for people who are curious, that's what I look like without glasses and a shirt on. And yeah, I still have this problem. The tooth. The tooth. The tooth. The tooth. Get that in sync. Without true love, we just exist. Anyway, that's kind of the theme of today's show. You know, love is the answer, I guess I have on the title, you know, underneath the title card as the title of the show. So yeah, we're going to talk about love today. Yesterday we were talking about depression. Talk about pains in the center of your back and chest pains and wondering if it's going to be a heart attack. I don't know. I also listening. So anyway, so I was listening to these songs. I'm just gonna talk. I just don't know if I'm talking, what level I'm talking or whatever. I even kind of, I look different to you folks, don't I? Because without that, the other Mickey Mouse thing is going on. But I could still hear the air conditioner, so I don't even know what, you see the face looks a little bit thinner when it's not like, squared out like this. I need to hear my voice. I've always needed to hear my voice. So anyway, it just I like jazz music. I like music from all eras. I like the 40s music. The big band sounds. I like those singers. I like the crooners. I used to always like Sinatra and people like that. Still do. But I'm saying I always did. Brazilian sound, bossa nova. Like I say, I had the longest running lounge show on the internet before there was an iPod and there was anything called podcasting. That's why I call this a worldwide webcast, because that's what we used to do. We used to webcast. A handful of us. There weren't that many people doing it, really. Because it was first of all, you had to have the technical ability and the servers had to be at some place that had the bandwidth, and it also cost money, a lot of money. They were charging for bandwidth ridiculous prices. This is 25 years ago. Be that as it may, we've talked about that and touched on that briefly before. I'm going to try to do this without fucking this microphone up too much. And maybe lowering it a little bit so I feel more comfortable. I don't know. Maybe doing these shows. Man, I don't know what that did for you, but man, that was a murder in my ears. I'm just not relaxed, and so maybe I'm tensing my back, and it's an ergonomic thing. Maybe we try to put a pillow in here. See if we can. Winnie the Pooh pillow behind me somehow. Maybe that'll help. Maybe half my problems are just ergonomic. I don't know. Feels a little bit better, I guess. I don't know. I just still feel like I'm reaching up, but my adjustments on this, they just don't want to lower the right way. I just want to be comfortable. I just want to do a radio show. Like kick back, relax, and listen to the 8-track. That's what I want to do. Just have a conversation with you folks. And not have to get up and... it's going to get cold in here really soon with this air conditioner on. My electric bill is going to be through the frickin' roof. Of course, the roof is gone. I was out yesterday in the rain, and push this away a little. And there can't be possibly any tiles left on my roof. And my roof goes up, it's like almost 4 stories. Because see, I have a 3rd floor that was like is a 100-some-year-old house. The attic was finished at some time. Probably the original owner of this house had a family and had kids up there, and it was probably they probably had like a couple of kids, like 2 kids sleeping in the 3rd floor as a bedroom or something. And so then above that is like a mini attic. This is a Dutch colonial house, so it kind of like comes to a peak and then another peak, if you know that form. And so by the time you get to where the roof is, and it's a really nice pitch, so it's great for getting snow off. But the problem is, to get up to that thing, it's almost like a 4th story. And in between my house and this nutty neighbor that the reason I'm getting these more alarms and cameras and security motion detectors and all that crap, which I got to hook up today, is because there's not that big a gap between that house and mine. You know, it's only about 4 or 5 feet. Whereas next, the doctor's office on the other side, there's like this open, it's not a parking lot. It's like the doctors park there, but I mean, it's almost that size. So it's like that building is, you know, total distance away. You know, it's space. Excuse me. That's to keep the stomach from going, which at least that problem is diminished. But anyway, I've got to deal with a psychotic person, and it's a layer of stress. So I guess there's two things I want to talk about today, and if you want to stay tuned and go for the, you know, take this ride, join me on this adventure today. We're going to talk about two things, and I better write them down so I don't forget. All right. And so it's love, and I already forgot the second thing. No. The second thing is layers of stress. And I'm going to just post that here. Hopefully my cup won't knock it over. My cup runneth over with love. And it looks like my cup runneth over with love wants to knock it over. And the wind and the willow from the air conditioner wants to knock it over. Hey, Scotty, could you send Bones down here? I'm not feeling too well. Tell him I need a Triox compound injection. Thank you. Tony out. What was that? That Triox thing? It was like, what was that? That was the fake one, though, I think, right? That was the one they used when Spock went to his home planet. He was supposed to marry that girl, Dupree. Remember her? She was hot. The sign fell over already. Not again, already. If I don't have reminders, I forget. And again, I have the air conditioner on. This room is freezing beyond your wildest belief in order for my computer CPU to work. And yet my ice is melting like crazy. And it's not near any heat source other than, which I'm not going to bring it out today, because if you've seen this show, go back and look at previous shows. The electromagnetic radiation coming from the thing. Well, get the hell. Scientific device, not a toy, used by people in labs, okay? See that red light? I don't know if you can hear it. Battery's probably dying on this thing. Electromagnetic radiation tester. It's in the harmful range. And so my ice is actually being melted by radiation. And you're wondering why I've got chest pains and all kinds of other problems. This was like this thing was filled with ice, and the ice is melted in like minutes. And the soda was in the refrigerator at ice cold. It's nutty. All right, so I'm listening to, we're going to talk about, these are our two topics, love and layers of stress. So if they don't interest you, go float a boat, go somewhere else, all right? Because that's what we're going to deal with.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
So I'm listening to these 40 songs just because I like the music. It wasn't like I wanted to hear, I wasn't thinking of like love songs or anything like that at all. I was just thinking of jazzy, big band, singers, the sound, throwback. As you can see from my set, black and white. It's like anything after the 70s, the 60s really. But I mean, the 70s were good years. By the way, if you want to hear a really neat song, check out the Cowsills had gotten together for a documentary, which is tragic because two of them died like shortly after that, or even one during it. But they had a song, They Were Some Good Years. That family had a very tragic life. Watch the documentary, The Cowsills. It was based on, that's what they based the Partridge Family on. It's a ridiculous story and it's a tragic story, but these were some good years, or they were some good years. That's a really cool song. I'd play it for you, but then the show would be taken down. So I'm listening to this 40s music for the sake of, a throwback to that time. And I might as well I forgot to say howdy. I can't really see my chat necessarily. I have to check it every now and then. The screen is filled with stuff. Okay, just so you know, in case anybody chats. I'll get to it, but I can't answer it right away because there's too much shit on the screen. So I'm listening, and they're all love songs. And, so after about the fifth or sixth song, like I said, I was sitting there for 3 hours. I had, drank about a 6-pack, or who knows, maybe more. I was hungover. And it just got to me, that era, and how people lived. And, and you think about technology and stuff. What did you have in the 1940s? Well, the early part of the 40s, of course, you had World War II, which was insane, I don't need to get into that. Though most people today, people like under 40, they don't really understand the concept of World War II. They don't, and I don't want to get into politics and all that stuff, but politically, these people out on the streets, they have no idea what went on and what we, Anyway, so that's that. But but the war ended, you know what I mean? We're so used to having these endless wars now that we don't realize that World War II only lasted several years. And it was over. They were brutal, horrible, horrific years, but but it ended, And then when it ended with a boom, It ended with the atomic bomb, which was probably totally unnecessary, but the idea was we're going to show the world that if any of you ever try this again, don't mess. This is what we'll do. And then the Cold War. Well, of course, there was the Korean conflict, and a lot of people died there. My dad was in the Korean War. But anyway, I'm listening. So back to the 40s. So the stiffness. That's how you know part of it's stress. But we're in the love aspect now, not in the layers of stress yet. Okay? So I'm listening to these songs, and they're all these, and these girls with beautiful voices. That's another quick thing. I was listening to, this is a side. This morning I asked my Echo Dot, I can't, her first name begins with A, to play Gal Costa, Girl from Ipanema. All right. And I was listening to it. It was a bad version of it too, by the way. It was some finale from some live show. In fact, I was very disappointed in the last several songs I've requested. And I just gave a good review to to them, because Amazon asks you to review things you buy. And I was sorry I did, because, she's totally royally screws up, and I'm asking for songs and I'm not getting exactly what I want right now. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the Amazon Music playlist, and sorry for the bad review, Amazon, but you ought to get some GPT-3 AI, tech into, what's her face. Like I say, I can't say the name because the thing's in the other room, and those things are so sensitive, and it's just going to be like calling out or something. Excuse me. I have to do that, or I'm a sick man. And I was thinking of trying to talk to this woman, the best AI developer right now is this Russian woman. I can't think of her name offhand, but she's the one who started the company Replica with a K. But those chatbots, the chatbot kind of things, she pushes them as like companions for people, so people could chat, text. Really, there's a way where you can pay a fee and you could push a button and talk, but it's like an old-fashioned. It would be like a 1940s radio. You'd literally be like, you don't have to say over, but it would be like, hey, such and such, what do you think of this, right? And then it would answer, and then if you wanted to reply, you'd have to push the button. You know what I mean? Real crappy interface. And it's the same, and I'll tell you the truth, I saw something at one point on the app for the, thing, the girl that begins with A from Amazon, where you can have it so the conversation could continue. But I was searching for that yesterday and I couldn't find it. And their app is very poorly designed. And it gets back to this idea. I know it's a side, but we got plenty of time. We'll get through all these issues if I don't die. And it's part of this whole thing where there's one thing about competition, trying to keep ahead of the competition, but there's another thing about technology. Technology has suffered from competition in a sense of in other words, we don't have the best experience or the best quality of life, the best GUI, which is like graphical user interface, your computer, even your smartphone, because everyone is competing with one another, and they really don't have to in certain areas. And there's no it's almost like they need a negotiator, somebody to step in, an intermediary, and say, hey, look, there are people who are going to buy the Amazon one, there's people going to use the Siri, there's people going to use whatever Cortana or whatever the Microsoft one is. Those companies within themselves, those are kind of device driven. You see? In other words, Siri, is basically, set up for your computer, your iPhone, their whole system. And people who are into the Mac, Apple world, or whatever you want to call it, they're going to go with that. People who are into the Amazon thing, it's a different animal, You can say to it, hey, where's my stuff? Which I did yesterday because I ordered these things I showed you. For somebody who just tuned in, I had to order this extra security alarm for my gate because I had some people break in my backyard. I know who they were because I've got cameras. I caught them. But, I said it was supposed to be 1-day delivery, and yesterday I said, hey, where's my stuff? And it told me. It said it's being delivered today. It's on time, out for delivery. And you can say, hey, I need, could you reorder this, or play music, or what's the weather outside, and all that stuff. So that's their world. And I haven't used a Microsoft, like I say, Cantana or whatever it is. Like, it's something like that. But, that's people who are into Windows and Microsoft world, that's their world. It's almost like a political thing, it's Mac versus the PC, it used to say in the 90s. But, I mean, it's the same thing now. People are pretty much into it's branding. It's their brand. And you tend to stick with a brand. But the problem is the technology that if you look at, say, this replica company, they're using the most, and of course Google has developed, is working on all their AI type of things that, beat the game Go and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the technology just from this Russian woman, and I hate to just say Russian woman, I don't know her name, And, this computer's so messed up that if I don't even want to do a search right now, Because I don't, the technology sucks. Basically it. Yesterday's show, if you watch towards the end, the beginning is very depressing. I was depressed yesterday, and we're going to get to layers of stress and how to deal with that. And hopefully it'll be a catharsis process for both of us. But the idea is that once technology is developed, why do we have inferior technology? Because of unnecessary competition that isn't going to affect your copyright, your royalties, or your income. Do you see what I mean? In other words, the people at MIT and UCLA or Berkeley or people in a private sector, a JPL, and just tied into UCLA, Berkeley. But the Ivy Leaguers and Oxford. There's all these brilliant minds working on all this really incredible stuff. And right now, when it comes to this AI, and if you watch my other show about AI is no threat. The myth of AI is that no, AI is a tool that we should be using more of, and we need an intermediary to bring these people together. It's too bad nobody watches my show. I saw somebody the other day. I watched a show yesterday, actually, on YouTube when I went upstairs after I was drinking, chilling out, watching some YouTube. And there's this couple I follow. They built this container home. If you know what I'm talking about, you probably know because, they're one of the big YouTubers, Well, anyway, the word "jip" comes up to me, like I think it was a Travolta line in that Tarantino movie. He goes like, "What a jip," right? Nobody uses that word anymore. But like they put out these videos, and yesterday's video, all it was the guy put on a couple of wall plates, right, on electrical outlets and switches, and added and did a strip of LED color lights, in their container home or something, and one or two other things, but the thing couldn't have, the thing was minutes long, and that was it. What a jip. And when I saw it at that time, there were 371,000 views on that. To watch a guy put on some face plates and unravel a LED, multicolor light thing and just, stick it to the top of the upper portion of his house, and then they put it on and go, ooh, woo, right. And I think right at the very end of it, they set off some fireworks because they'd recorded it on July 4th or something. 371,000 views. I've got 2 concurrent viewers, and one of them is no doubt the algorithm from Google, And like I say, I don't get into it. And I've got somebody, we will never invent AI because we are in the past of the propagation of thought itself. Well, we have AI. Someone, it's just that the thing is, I mean, that's what my book back here is about. Codex. Read it, my friend. Codex. And I've actually had conversations with the highest level of AI, GPT-3. The problem is they basically kind of put the kibosh on that. All right? No, we have AI. Watch my show on AI. AI is a myth in the sense of the danger. I took that graphic off where we had Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator. That's the myth. No, AI as a sophisticated chatbot, okay, conversational, tool for us is real, and this GPT AI technology is incredible. What I'm trying to say is that if you take the woman from Replica, right? I mean, I'm going to try to do this just because I don't want to. This woman is, okay. CEO of Replica. Let's see if that comes up. Eugenia Kuja. Okay? All right? And they've got about 2.5 million people, right? And like there's some of this people are asking, can a replica fall in love? Depending on how regularly you check in, your replica will feel out of the loop, worried, curious, chatty, or excited. Some users, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Eugenia Kuda. Kuyda. She's the CEO and founder of Luca and its Replica app. Okay? And I believe Luca was her friend, boyfriend, friend or something, that they actually created this thing. These are coders, and they created it quite by accident. This person died, and they put all this information. Everyone put everything they had into this algorithm thing, and they started to communicate with it. It was like for closure or something weird like that. And they found out that the responses they were getting, because they had put all this information in and allowed this and dealt with it in this form of like the AI chatbot type of concept, that it was as if it was this person. I mean, the responses were were uncanny. It would be like what that person would do. Okay. But okay, so this Eugenia woman she's a genius, and her team, they're top. They're the best. I think they're better than the Google team. And if they would take that ability, the abilities, their code, their ability, and that would be tied into the Siri or the A1 from Amazon, which, like I say, I'm not mentioning because it's in the other room, and it's I just don't want to hear, say the name. It's gonna be calling out to me or something, or this Cantana or whatever. And so we're being deprived of that because it would be really good to be able to have that ability to just talk. So in other words, when you look at the Amazon Echo Dot, or we'll just say Siri for now, but I don't think Siri's that cool. And Siri, you have to push the fucking button, basically. All right? The thing about the Amazon is you don't have to push a fucking button. You just say the name. and it's there, and you could do it from the next room. The thing's real sensitive, and its voice sounds really good, right? And the quality, like I use it as almost a jukebox. I have two of them. I have one in my bedroom and one in my bar. And in the bar one, I use it. It's like a jukebox. That's what I did yesterday. That's what we're talking about, love in the 40s. I just wanted to get through this thing real quick so I don't waste the whole show on this. And I'm saying that if they would share this technology among themselves, the scientists, the developers, the coders, this would be a beautiful thing. And it wouldn't necessarily throw one or the other on the top. It's not, see, there comes a point where competition for financial gain is one thing, but competition for like ego or for just no reason whatsoever or just getting caught up into some kind of thing is another thing. You know, it's almost, and what we're seeing with AI is that the you know, you've got the military, you got DARPA wanting to create, you know, autonomous robots that could be killing machines or something like that, right? That's the thing people are afraid of, all right? But don't be afraid of that, because, you know, I mean, well, you could be afraid of the military in a totalitarian state, which we seem to be heading into. You know, that goes without saying. But if that happens, there's nothing you can do about that anyway, so just forget it, you know. If you've seen the General Dynamics or Boston Dynamics robots, you know, if they decided to like build 1 million of those things and just set them loose on us, on the people, they could just wipe us out, right? But those machines by themselves aren't going to do that. They need commands by whoever wants to decide, you know, by the Davos set. Or somebody said yesterday, the Davos set or something. But the World Economic Forum, folks. But this isn't an AI show. Watch my AI show if you want to do that. It was a couple of shows ago. And so what I'm trying to get at is that that's one thing that really this show isn't about. So I have to move on from that. But the weakness in AI and the weakness in Amazon's thing is that it needs Eugenia to come in and to basically share her GPT-3 algorithms with Amazon for a price, or talk to them, make a deal. All right? Because, you know, and what I'm saying is that collectively all 3 or 4 of these major players in this, they're just not, none of them are superior. You know, it's just, it's in other words, we all suffer. The quality, the overall quality sucks. And it's the same with, you see it when you try talking to customer service and chat, you know, texting, you know, for customer support. You know, those things are morons. You know, it's just really poor stuff. So they don't even, they're like a GPT-1 or whatever the heck it is. If you try talking to them, nothing gets done. Okay. So back to the 1940s. So I'm listening to these songs, and they're love songs. And I'm realizing, you know, all these songs are about love. You know, and these women with great voices. That's what I was talking about. Gal Costa, man. If you want to, whether you're into like the, you know, the Brazilian sound, the bossa nova, or anything like that, find a good quality version of Gal Costa singing "The Girl from Ipanema" or something like that. Her voice, you know, the female voice, you know, it's like she's got a voice that matches that body, is all I can say. I mean, it is just, it's beautiful. And so I'm listening to these 40 singers, and there's a lot of them, you know, but they're men and women, and, you know, it's all love. And then, of course, people know that as we got into the 50s, you know, America was kind of, it was like America was high school. See, because pop culture was for the young. You know, we forget about that. See, pop culture now is like everybody's involved in pop culture, because pop culture is politics and the cult of personality and all that stuff. The news is pop culture, right? But pop culture was basically young. So America was like kind of, after the baby boom, after the war, there was a baby boom because all the soldiers came home and suddenly you had these houses, the GI Bill and neighborhoods, and the average person was able to have a house, a refrigerator, a car with a garage. These things sound like, somebody listening to this under the age of 50, say, they're like, duh, what's he talking about? Well, yeah, in the early part of the 20th century, I'll tell you how bad it was in the U.S. People were still using outhouses and, all over the place. And 2,000 years ago, the Romans had toilets, running water, fountains, and all that stuff. Okay, that's how bad it was here. And they're teaching you this revisionist history, and you don't even know. You don't even know, like, what happened in the country you live in. Well, anyway, up until after the war, post-World War II, the average worker, all right, had it really rough. Was really rough. They were a wage slave at best. They lived in row homes. Most workers, row homes. You didn't have neighborhoods like that. Those were few and far between, and those were for people. Like when I grew up, a doctor. We had it. Well, I lived in a neighborhood. Now it was no exclusive neighborhood, okay? But to give you an example, my next door neighbor was a doctor who eventually moved out because quickly doctors started making more money after that time. But I literally had a doctor's family living next to me, all right? But again, my dad was a working man, working class, to middle class at that time guy, but he worked his ass off, and at one point had taken over a family business, but also worked a second job we had 3 kids to pay, but we had the garage, he had his car, right? My mom had the refrigerator, the washer and dryer, okay? And prior to that, people still had like wringer washers, right? I mean, it wasn't so long ago. In other words, when the 50s came along, people forget that, prior, during the war, only the wealthy people had ice boxes and stuff. I mean, it was bad. Not bad, but I mean, it was like primitive in a sense. So anyway, so you had the baby boom, and then people came along, and so it's like, and that's when rock and roll and that kind of thing started to happen. And you had the soda jerks, people hanging out at the the drugstore, drinking with milkshakes and stuff like that. They were like kids, high schoolish, junior high schoolish aged. And then the 60s was when they started getting older. So it was high school into where the country was like kind of, from a pop cultural standpoint, was hitting college. And and that was like the culmination of like when you saw the Summer of Love in Woodstock. They were like college people and maybe some seniors type of people in high school. And then the 70s came along, and people were like, had grown up because we had the Vietnam War, and that matured people real quick, because the idea of your mortality, to know at age 18 that you could die if you had a certain draft number. All right, you're sent off to some, halfway around the world, or completely around the world. And you rotate, and suddenly you're in hell. Okay, war is hell. So that brings us, and the 70s were the best of times and the worst of times. And then when the war ended, remember, the civil rights ended, the feminist movement ended, and so the 70s, by the mid 70s, those were the best time. Those were some of the best times in America. There was no war. The civil rights movement was a success. People were living well. The prices of things were fairly inexpensive. The average person could buy a car, a house, and just live well in a, it was a great time. You could travel. I did. You could do whatever you wanted to. But it was all about love, is what I'm saying. The music of the 40s, pop culture, because pop culture defines the culture. It's the culture of a society. What is the society? What's at the popular culture. And if you look back at that music, it was all about love, true love, like I have on, I had on the title card. Without, and that's I believe Alfie, the original Alfie, was the '60s. Without true love, we just exist. What a fucking great line, man. All right. And what the world needs now is love, sweet love. Everything was love songs, right? And then the 80s came in, and it was like, that's when the so-called hippies became yuppies, and and suddenly it was money and materialism. And that, and it was the beginning of the end. The 80s were the beginning of the end. And from that point onward, and by the time we reached the 90s, it was just, you think of the Seattle sound and stuff, even Kurt Cobain, it was great. He had some great songs and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, it was like, this heroin, depressing, downward spiral into the 90s, more or less, though there was still some decent pop and rock music coming up. And then rap and dance music, well, that was just like, it's like rave stuff, get out, shake your booty, and hook up, and friends with benefits, and shake it, and I'm going to sex you type of stuff. It wasn't love anymore. I could remember I always went out with girls who were, I had this thing for, well, not that. I always, I had this thing that I always went out with good-looking girls, all right? And good-looking girls tended to be, if I was 39, I would, I'd be going out with a girl who was 29, or something. So, the idea is, and I remember then, the difference is from growing up to that point, I've been in a lot of relationships. I had some good relationships, some bad relationships. I was married twice, and I'm divorced. All right. So believe me, I've tasted, I've tasted every kind of woman there is, and had the experiences, that, I didn't miss out on anything, put it that way. I wouldn't mind, like I said, right now I have everything I need, almost. Yeah. God. So, but I remember dating, by the time towards the late 90s, I could remember that the women that were a little younger than me, that I was trying to date, or I would go out on a date with, or I would just, converse with, hang with, whatever, that love was like not a thing, that was just not like, it just, for in general, again, I'm generalizing. Everything I'm saying is generalizing, But that's what pop culture means. What's the, the predominant, the popular culture, the popular thing. A generalization means what was what was generally going on, most people. And we progressively lost that idea of what the world needs now is love, sweet love, or without love we just exist. And that's the thing about AI, getting back into that, is that there is no thing when you had Jack. Someone was trying to talk. Yeah, well, this show is basically about American pop culture. Someone was trying to explain about the rest of the world. The rest of the world, when America had cars, the rest of the world still had horses. Yeah, it's true. But I mean, look at what's going on in Southeast Asia, most of the continent of Africa, South America, even in India, how people are living in India, one of the highest populations, next to China. All right, people are living in abject poverty. In America, no matter how poor you are, you won't starve unless you want to. I've said this yesterday. You get free food. If you're below the poverty line, you get free food. I live below the poverty line, so I actually qualify for free food and free health care and that sort of thing. But yeah, the rest of the world, we called it Western civilization, but I'm talking about, this is American pop culture I'm talking about. I'm responding to somebody you just saw who did a chat or whatever the heck you call it, darn stuff. Like I say, I'm not a chatter or a texter or anything like that, but it's there, and I do pay attention. I'm not on it all the time. Okay, so that's the injustice of the world, and that's the problem with the World Economic Forum and the Davos set, because they're the people that are keeping the rest of the world down. We're approaching 8 billion people on the planet, and these people are talking about the Great Reset, but, and they talk about privilege and white privilege and stuff, but the Davos set is predominantly a bunch of very wealthy billionaire white guys. And some people are looking at me and thinking, they're not a bunch of couple of white guys, shooting cans, like I always say, down in Kentucky or West Virginia. These stereotypes they make, and then as if this is, oh no, we've got to worry about these people, this domestic, terrorist. It's like, no, it's a bunch of guys living in poverty in West Virginia and Kentucky, or some, just as an example, who are broke and bored, and there's no work there for them to do, and so they're just hanging out, drinking a six-pack, and shooting cans. Why not? They're no threat to anybody. The people who are a threat are the people that are keeping down the 8 billion people on the planet. This Davos set, this World Economic Forum, and the people who are in charge of the U.S. right now, the corporatocracy, right? All right, but that's not what this show's about, and I don't want to get into politics. I'm talking about love. That's what's missing. Because, see, love is the answer, and that's the secondary title of this show. There's no love. We don't have love. And it's not just romantic love. We don't have romantic love either, really. Most marriages end up in divorce. So, we don't have true romantic love. When I grew up, I remember going to my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. 50th wedding anniversary. And that those things were commonplace. You would go to relatives, other relatives, and they'd be like their 30th and 40th wedding anniversaries and stuff. People stayed together and they loved each other. And life was about love. And when you were young, it was like love. You fell in love. You know, and that's it. You know, I was a sucker for it. I fell in love all the time, man. That was my downfall. I'd have living a much different life if I wouldn't have been such a sucker. You know, like that ZZ Top song, "Fool for Your Stockings." You know, I mean, the idea is that, like, you know, man, I've been like allowed myself to be played by that, you know, a beautiful smile like that and a body like that so many times. But, you know, most of the time I got something out of it too. But instead, you know, I got, you know, I should have been focusing on some different things. But can't change the past. Can't live in the past. So, you know, one of the things I think that people ought, and then we're going to jump into the second part of this topic, which ties into it, the layers of stress, is that what's missing from society is overall love. Everyone seems to be angry, unhappy, and stressed out. And their leaders, so-called leaders, who I don't believe that we need. The concept of a leader to me is insane. Like, well, we're individuals. What do we need a leader for? Right? You know, that thing has gotten totally out of control. That's the politics of, you know, the cult of personality has gotten completely out of control. It's one thing to have somebody, you know, guide, you know, a group of people, or somebody to spearhead research, spearhead something, or to organize, you know, community watch, or a community clean up a park. Okay, right? To have a person, you know, because, you know, group think and mob think doesn't work. You know, you do need to have somebody there to say, hey, why don't we start on the left side of the park and then we'll move over this way? Or, hey, I know a guy who owns such and such who said he would provide us with the trash bags, and Mary here is going to give us the you know, has got some of these gloves and stuff. You know, yeah, okay. You know, that's not a leader. That's just like, you know, that's the person who's like helping out, who's trying to guide, you know, maybe taking charge of a situation, but that's it. This idea of us following the leader, that's authoritarianism. That's totalitarian. You know, you know, we need love. Okay, we need to get along, and we need love, and we don't just need, and that's what's missing from society. I don't care, and nobody wants to talk about that. Could you imagine somebody on Fox or CNN actually coming on and saying that? They'd be like, "You sappy, weird." They wouldn't even put them on, and that's why I have no viewers, because I talk about things like this. You know, what are people so afraid of falling in love for? You know, what are people afraid of just loving, you know, instead of hating, right? You know, like there's, you know, different degrees of love. You know, happiness is, you know, and so people have layers of stress, and that's what let's transition into that. And so myself right now, the problem I have, it's like if it's not one thing, it's another. And I'm trying to joke about it and whatever, but no, I mean, it physically, you get so many layers of stress, it'll physically cause harm to your body, your organs. You could die. Like I said yesterday, you take some 80-some-year-old guy, and him and his wife are going, after he's got heart problems, he's getting released from the hospital before I am, and they're going to McDonald's on the way home eating French fries and burgers. And I'm getting, in for another day or two, and they're telling me, blah, 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 and I'm going out and eating, like, greens, bland green salads and, stuff like that, blueberries or something. And that guy guy's probably still fucking alive. Because he's happy and he goes to McDonald's and he's got his Happy Meal, right? That's how sick it is. It's like all these vegans and stuff who've got zits all over their faces and are unhealthy and all that. It's not the food, man. Organic food is fake. The FDA lies. The standards for which to post organic on something is like, the threshold is so low, it's unbelievable. I've talked about this before. It's the same with pure. They could tell you something is pure honey or something, and it'll contain high fructose corn syrup. The threshold is very low. That's the same reason why you see all the lawsuits for these drugs on TV that the FDA approved, okay? The FDA is like the biggest enemy next to the media of people, because the media actually puts this kind of shit on TV and social media, because the media is everything now, right? The media includes social media. When I say media, I mean everything. Anybody out there passing some kind of bullshit with an agenda. Their agenda is twofold. One, they want to, it's greed, power, and greed. They want to control people, and they want to be, maintain their ridiculous, lavish lifestyles. And they want to get control of this 8 billion people on the planet, and they don't know how else to do it other than to scare the shit out of them. And that's what's going on the past 2 years. And Lord knows what they're going to do this fall to us. I've been hearing some stories. And I know you have probably too. So this is a time to be vigilant, put it that way. Because some crazy stuff might be coming down the pike. They just don't need us anymore. They don't want us. There's too many of us. And they're making up all these crazy ass things. But they'll be in for a big surprise when the sun, basically has a CME or a micronova or something like that. Our magnetic field is already weakening, blah, 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 blah. Don't stress out about that, because I'll tell you why. Excuse me for belching. I told you I'm a sick person. If I don't do that, my stomach will cause all kinds of stomach problems. Why don't you stop drinking those sodas? Because I need the caffeine to get through this freaking show. And I did stop. I cut it completely in half of what I was drinking before. And I ate a sound breakfast before I started this. So here's the catharsis process. Just like I told you, you take a letter sheet of paper and you draw a line down the middle, and you say what the pros and cons, the good, what you like, what you dislike, in order to get your house in order and decide where you want to live, how you want to live, whether you want to get married or not, whether you want to do this, do that, keep this job, do that, blah, blah, blah. You got to put it down on paper, make those lists. And it takes you a while. You can't do it overnight. You sit it there and you sleep on it, and maybe it takes you weeks. You keep adding things to the pros and cons, good, bad, likes, dislikes, etc. And you'll see your life down on paper there, and you'll be able to make a decision. You'll know if you're doing the right thing, living the right thing, or if you need change. Well, the same thing is with stress. In fact, I'm going to do it today because I haven't done it, And so this is something we can do together. I'm not going to do it on the show, but it's something I'm telling you about. Take a sheet of paper. Forget about computers. See, the problem with computers and apps and stuff like that, everything's an ordeal. And like I was saying before, the technology is crap. Because they don't share the basic things. They don't understand branding. I was a creative director at an advertising agency. I was involved in I was a general manager of a radio station. I was a producer. I was a manager of talent. I worked in the entertainment industry. I worked in the education industry. I was a publisher, a supervisor in an Ivy League school's paper. I mean, I've done all this crap, man. I lived and worked in Capitol Hill. Been all over. I've rotated around the planet. Okay? And the idea is that this is reality, you know? I know human behavior, you know? I understand that. That's my expertise. Or like in that one Twilight Zone, expertise. The idea is that, look, take a sheet of paper and write down the things that are stressing you out, and start with the small things, the minor things, or the major things. It doesn't matter. I mean, there might be something that's really bothering you. Like right now, I've got this problem with this neighbor. I'm trying to deal with it. All right? I got these people trying to break in my yard because they think that my bushes or something are overgrown, are on their fence, or they don't want to see them, or they want to see me. They're nosy, and they don't like the idea that I'm growing like hedges and stuff next to the fence so I can have privacy. What's he doing in there? What's he doing in there? We need to know. We got a right to know. It's like a Tom Waits song, right? What's he doing? We got a right to know. That's how psychotic these people are. That's what their whole motivation is. I started to put up some privacy stuff, and that's when they started going off the deep end. Because they can't figure me out. Right? They don't understand a guy who just grows a garden, has this this lounge chair, these 2 outdoor speakers, and listens to like classical music or whatever, and I'm just laying in the sun. Like, if you could see me, I got a suntan and I enjoy it. I got a little fountain and I feed the birds. You know, they just can't figure that out. Well, how can he be happy? See, I was happy. I was really happy. And now I'm basically like, I'm a fucking physical mental wreck. Because I got layers of stress. And so, the top of my list is deal with these crazy neighbors. And I have to do concrete things that will prevent them from acting out on their, psychotic, delusional, whatever. But we have layers of stress. There might be this little thing in your house. Well, I have a leaky roof. Man, I got layers of stress. Like I say, I hope more people. The number one killer in the United States, I say this all the time, every year, it's like 650,000 people a year die of heart disease. All right? 650,000 people. All right? That's like the leading cause of death in the U.S. And they will tell you that stress is one of the worst things you can have. And these people fall over at age 50 from, a heart attack, or they have strokes and stuff because they're all stressed out. And I don't want to be one of those people. And I got pains and shit, so I don't know. I could fall over myself. I don't want to. I'm not afraid of death or anything like that. I don't really care about that. I had a cancer diagnosis. Once you get that kind of thing, you get over all that stuff. And you come to grips with reality and your mortality, and it's like, okay, I'm fine with that. But, I'm not like going to be, I don't want to usher it in, have it happen. If it happens, it happens. But I don't want to have layers of stress and die, 20 years early. So, this is the thing. So I'm just giving you an example. So I got this leaky roof and stuff. So I need to try to solve some of that problem. I can't afford to buy a new roof. Nobody ever bought any of my shit. I get 2 people watching my fucking show. I'm no YouTube millionaire. I'm demonetized. I can't even get people to buy a fucking, you know, $17 shirt or whatever it is, a $12 mug, or, you know, or a $29 whatever Noah radio, which is the coolest thing in the world. Light. I was using it today, the light on it, to try to fix this microphone. That's another story. Nobody gives a shit about me, right? They just want to watch some guy screw on receptacle covers and put up a couple of lights, you know, on a 17-minute show, and 371 people watched it. They'll probably be up to, you know, close to 1 million by the end of the week. And the guys, then they become YouTube millionaires. Well, I don't want to be a millionaire. I just want my roof not to leak. I just want to not be in bed and get a Chinese water torture, as they used to say, have water drip on my forehead, or go out in the hall in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and find that I'm walking and that the rug is wet from the freaking roof leaking. Layer of stress, major layer of stress. Neighbors, major layer of stress. But a small layer of stress might be some annoying thing in your house, a thing that you never got around to fixing, but it's like it's a problem all the time. You know, you write down take this sheet of paper, just like the other one, when you figure out what you want to do with your life and stuff, the pros and cons, likes, dislikes, things that make you happy, things that make you unhappy, blah, blah, blah. But this one is just no line down the middle. This is just one sheet of paper. And at the top of it, you write, you know, layers of stress, my layers of stress. And so write them down. You know, one of my other layers of stress is this thing in my ear. I do this show every day. This is my service to others, right? Because that's something I believe in. Service to others instead of service to self. I don't make any money on this. I'm just trying to share and help, you know, and do something. Do something, you know, positive in life that may help another individual. You know, think of it. That's another form of love, right? You know, love your fellow man. All right? You have to get into some kind of religious thing or anything like that. It's like the idea of love. So I do this out of love. Love for whoever watches this. All right? That's it. It's not for money. I don't make any money. I mean, I wish you'd read my book, but, you know, when I write these books, like Codex here, which also has some stuff about AI and stuff in there, and it also has a story about my hospital ordeal. But that book was written out of love. You know, I'm sharing an experience, and it's something that I hope that if someone reads it and spends the $12.95, buy the hard copy. You have a book, you know, that it might help you. Raises some questions. It's thought-provoking, you know. So it's all out of love. When I was talking about AI and these people need to get together and share this technology, it's about love. But anyway, so you get these layers of stress. And so what you do is just make a list. Think of all the things that bother you. All right? These stressful things in your life. Just write them down on this thing. If you have a significant other, a spouse, or you're in some group, you know, roommate situation or something weird like that, you don't want other people to see it, you know, keep it in, you know, fold it up and keep it somewhere where, you know, you keep your stuff. But go back to it and add to it. And what you want to do is that you're going to find there's going to be, if you feel stressed out, I mean, if you don't feel stressed out, if you're happy-go-lucky, you know, more power to you. I was a couple of weeks ago, man. I had the roof problem, I had the tooth, you know, I've got this thing going on, you know. Remember, the tooth. The tooth. You know, and I'm somewhere down the line, I'm headed for this. You know, those are my layers of stress. You know, I got something both sides of my mouth now. So yeah, I'm a fucking basket case. But I'm still willing to share this with you. Because that's what it's about. You know, I'm trying to help you through something that, that I'm going through. It's like I say, even when I look up stuff on the internet, it's like it's firsthand. You know, this isn't a meme. This isn't like, something viral, something I saw somewhere else. Or, you know what I mean? I'm creating this on my own. I'm, on the fly. My only note is the thing you saw me writing down. I wrote the word love and layers of stress. I wouldn't forget that this is what I wanted to talk about today. That's it. There's no prep for this show. I was going to sing the song. I was trying to find the chords for the song Company by Ricky Lee Jones, and I was going to try playing that on a guitar. But I did find it, but she uses some really weird chords and stuff, and I'd have to practice that. It's not something I could just pull out on the fly, because they're like, odd. It's not like just your run-of-the-mill chords, and the versions of the chords that she's using are her style, her versions of them. Like her, her minor sevenths or sustained or whatever's are like different. Maybe she was using a capo or something weird like that. I'd have to sit down and literally mess around with that song. Probably take me a half hour or so to figure out, to get the sound I, wanted and also in key with my voice. Man, that song is one of the most moving songs in the world. It's about, listen to Ricky Lee Jones Company sometime. If you got one of these, Echo Dot things or something, say, hey, play Ricky Lee Jones Company, please. Company. It's the saddest song. I think it's one of the saddest songs ever written. But it's about love and loneliness and that kind of thing. And part of your stress might be like, living alone. Like, see, I have a weird love-hate relationship with that concept. I like my privacy at this point in my life. I like living alone. I like being free, right? But, it comes with the also thing that you're alone, right? It's like I was talking about yesterday, it's like these children, the babies right after maternity leave, they send these children to the nanny state, whether they're rich or poor, it's still mommy, they're just abandoning these kids to these strangers. And then when people get really old, they put them in these warehouses, and same thing, whether they're rich or poor, it's just the quality of the building or whatever, but it's still they're warehoused and they're in some kind of hospital bed or in some kind of room, and they're all alone. The end of their life. So at the beginning of your life, you're alone, and the end of your life, you're alone. And there's nothing worse to think about some 80-year-old person alone in a bed crying, or a baby crying, because it's lonely and abandoned. It feels abandoned by its mother or father. And the same with an old person, feels abandoned by its children, right, and grandchildren. It's a tragic things. But anyway, that's another thing. That's the lack of love in our society that we allow that to happen, because greed takes over, right? Oh, well, I can't. I have to work. I have to send the child to daycare. Because how am I going to make a payment on the house? How are we going to keep our SUV? How are we going to go on that cruise? Or how are we going to go on a vacation? Or how are we going to be able to afford that expensive appliance? You know, I can't, you know, I have to do this. What about my career? You know? And I wonder why kids are all messed up. And the same thing with, you know, and poor senior citizens are just abandoned. Now, people visit them and all that stuff, but they're alone most of the time, and they're crying. They're probably crying. That breaks my heart to hear that, because that's true too. But yeah. So we have no empathy as a society, and again, I'm generalizing. It's not as if there aren't beautiful, loving people with empathy and compassion out there. There are millions and millions of them. The problem is there's 8 billion people on the planet, or in the case of the US, there's 330 million people here. So if you had 100 million people who were compassionate and loving in this country, that still means that's still a minority. All right? We just don't in general. So my generalization is that we lack love in our society, and that lack of love is what is causing these layers of stress. That's what's at the root of it all. But you got to write down those layers of stress. Write down those items of stress. And some things might be stupid, like a dripping faucet even. Right? But the idea I'm trying to say is, say you make this list, and it's everything from a toilet handle that you have to jiggle all the time. Okay, I mean, this is goofy stuff. To the idea of dealing with some, some really, really stressful things that are causing you chest pains or something. And make that list and just keep adding to it. You're not going to sit down in one day and write it. Things are going to come to you. You're going to wake up the next day and you're going to go, oh yeah, that's, or a thing will happen and, or you'll be doing something and it'll be like, oh, fuck. And it's like, yeah, add that to your list. And when you feel you got this list of, 20 things, 20 layers of stress, 24 layers of stress, I don't know, then what you need to do is need to start crossing off those layers of stress. Because otherwise you're going to die. It's going to kill you. You're going to have a heart attack or stroke, or if you're ill or have an illness, it's going to eat at your immune system, weaken your immune system, your ability to fight off things. And it's also going to make you unhappy, have a feeling of being unsettled, And that's why I think there's so many people angry and hateful. I mean, everything out there right now, you turn on TV and it's all hate, and if it's not hate, it's spite, right? Or smirk, right? Comedy now is making fun of people, right? And politicians or things or their other side. Do you see what I mean? It's not a laugh, right? It's not just something funny. It's all like smirk, make fun of it, and then people laughing at people. That's not right. That's not love. That's not empathy. Okay? So, and you'll be surprised, and, we'll compare notes on this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start it. Because I'm at my wit's end, to be honest with you. Like I say, I don't even know. I mean, I turn my neck and it's so stiff. And it's not from some exercise. It's just layers of stress. I'm at the breaking point. This computers, you can't, going through this nonsense I have to deal with. I never, in the time I've lived in this house, this is the most I've run this air conditioner. I can't afford to buy a new one. I only ever turned it on about 6 or 7 times a summer when it would be like, the dog days of summer for like a little bit. Now to do this show, it's like, and I don't have the money to do this. I live at the poverty level. So I don't know. I don't even know how much longer I can do this show. I don't even know if I can do this show. So I'm just sharing with you, what I'm going to try to do to improve my life. I hope I'm successful. And if you are watching this and, and you think that, what the world needs now is love, sweet love, or, without, that line, without true love, we just exist. We're just androids. Then, then I was successful in, maybe making somebody think about that, improving somebody's life. And that's why I do this thing. And I just hope I could take it to heart myself with the stress part of it. I don't know. I'm trying. These are things you can try, things we can all do. I'm going to do. And, we'll see how it goes. So, with that, I guess it's time to just end the show. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll be here tomorrow. Visit my site, TonyCaravanLive.com. Share it, like it, do something. Donate to the cause. Figure things out. Follow the links. Buy something. It helps. Believe me, I got bills to pay. Thanks, and good luck with whatever might be, on your list of